Precisely how peaceful is the world around us? Our next speaker can answer that. Steve Killelea founded the Institute for Economics and Peace, which compiles the Global Peace Index each year, ranking the level of peacefulness around the world. Steve turned to peace building after a successful career in business technology. Steve has written, "I believe in peace when properly defined is the first fundamental human right that makes all other rights possible. The right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness will remain forever out of reach in the absence of peace." Please welcome Steve Killelea.
Michael, I'd like to thank you for the kind introduction. There are three things I'm going to cover in this presentation today. The first, and probably the most important, is the financial benefits of peace and what it means for the economy. The second thing which I'll be going through is peace, a concept called positive peace, and that's what we use to measure peace. And thirdly, I'll come around to the various educational offerings the Institute for Economics and Peace has on peace education. Now, let's just start with the many, and this is a plethora of different benefits for the business community and the economy which come from peace. So for countries that are improving in peace, they have, compared to countries which are deteriorating in peace, on average, they have a 2% per annum higher GDP growth rate. And that, when you take it over 30 or 40 years, is truly substantial. We also find that in these societies that consumer spending is twice as high as societies which are deteriorating in peace. Business activity grows at a similar rate. So we find business activity grows twice as high in countries improving in peace compared to ones which are deteriorating. And you find similar things with inflation as well, and also with interest rates. So in both situations, interest rates and inflation are much lower in countries improving in peace compared to those deteriorating. In fact, when you look at the volatility of inflation, it's 4 times higher in countries which are deteriorating in peace. We can even look at things like foreign direct investment. What we'll find with that, again, it's about 2 times higher in countries which are improving in peace compared to countries which are deteriorating. Also, even if you just compare it to the global average, we go back over the last decade, countries which are improving in peace had 33% higher GDP growth than just the global average. So again, even comparing to the global average, the outcomes truly significant. Corporate profits are also high, 25% higher in a decade compared to countries which are deteriorating in peace. Capital investment, similar sort of figure, 32% for capital investment. Now, if you have a look at the chart, it's all summarised there. But let's come around and now just look at the cost of violence to the global economy. And it truly is staggering. So in 2021, the cost of violence to the global economy was $16.5 trillion. Right? That's just a huge amount. In fact, that comes to 10.9% of global GDP. And the real figure is probably higher because we can only count what we can count. And one of the highest expenditures or components of that 16.5 trillion is actually the military, about 40%. Another way of looking at this is the equivalent of $2,100 for every person living on the planet. And to drive that home even further, what we find is there are 52 countries in the world where the per capita income is actually less than that 2,100. So reductions in peace have profound economic benefits. So now, no one here can actually imagine a world which is peaceful, totally peaceful. But we can all imagine a world which is, let's say, 10% more peaceful. So what would that be worth? That's the equivalent of $1.65 trillion. Now, to put that into perspective, that'd be like adding 3 new economies to the world the size of Ireland, Denmark, and Switzerland. Now, put it another way, 1% of that economic cost of violence to the global economy is 165 billion. That's the size of all overseas developmental aid, which occurred in 2021. So as you can see, these are truly large amounts of money and really quite staggering. Now, what I want to talk to you about now, very quickly, is what creates peace. So there's a whole range of different definitions of peace. So all those economic measures I've given you are based around a concept called positive peace. So they're the attitudes, institutions, and structures which create and sustain peaceful societies. And you can see it in the graphic, which is displayed on your screen now. To arrive at that, the Institute for Economics and Peace has used about 50,000 different data sets, indexes, attitudinal surveys. It's done mathematical modelling, statistical analysis to work out the qualities which most closely associated with highly peaceful societies. And you can see that now in the various pillars, which you can see on your screen. And they're the 8 pillars of positive peace. So as you can see, they're well-functioning government, strong business environment, equitable distribution of resources, high levels of human capital, acceptance of the rights of others, good relationships with neighbours, low levels of corruption. And so we can see all of these come together and they operate as a system. You can't really separate one from another. So just as an example, we'll take just 3 of the pillars. So let's look at well-functioning government, low levels of corruption, and let's say free flow of information, which can be epitomised by a free media. Now, does government and the regulations affect corruption, or does corruption affect how government operates? Does the press influence government and what it does, or does the regulations of the government influence the press and what it says? Does the press, when it shines light on corruption, influence the society's perceptions and what it does with corruption? Or does corruption block the free flow of information? Now, as you can see, you can't separate any of these. So to understand a society, you really need to look at it through all the pillars of positive peace. So now, this really is quite profound, because now as you start to understand the qualities which are associated with creating peace, and you look at it from a systems perspective, you now have a transformational way of being able to build societies. And this also leads to a whole range of other things which we think are important. I've mentioned the economic benefits of peace, but you get better performance on ecological measures, better performance on well-being and happiness, and better developmental outcomes through the implementation of positive peace and higher levels of positive peace. Finally, before finishing, I'd just like to come around and talk about some of the courses which the Institute for Economics and Peace does. We place special emphasis on education. We have a whole series of different educational programs which we offer around the world. So the first one I'll mention is the Positive Peace Academy. And that's an online course, and it's a short introduction into positive peace and the benefits of it and peace. And it runs for approximately about 4 hours. And so if you go to the visionofhumanity.org, you can get access to that course, and it's free. It's now been run in, I think we're covering now about 80 languages. It's been run and used by people on a whole range of different continents around the world. And I think at this stage, we've probably had about 50,000 people do that course. Another thing which we offer is a little bit more detailed, and that it's called an IEP, or Institute for Economics and Peace Ambassadors course. And that runs over a period of about 6 weeks and involves doing a project at the back end. And so to date, we've trained roughly about 4,500 people as IEP ambassadors around the world. We've had large intakes in places like Ethiopia. We ran a specialised course for 200 people there last year. We also did one in Nigeria as well, where we ran that for another 150 people in Nigeria. And again, that course has now been run by people, I think, in about 70 different countries. So these offerings are really integral to the way IEP operates. Now, finally, I'm just going to come back to one point, back to the economic benefits, because I think that it's incredibly important to focus on them. So again, if we looked at a 10% reduction in the cost of violence, the global economy, that's worth $1.65 trillion. If you can direct that to the right places, you will massively reduce poverty, provide a lot more money for development, and in these hard economic times where we've got the decreasing growth rates and high levels of inflation, those benefits would be sorely needed. Anyway, finally, just to finish up, I'd like everyone to sign the petition to create the Global Peace Education Day. I've got my pen here. I hope you've got your pen there, and I look talking to you again sometime in the future. Thank you. Goodbye.